got another UK legal carry here. This knife, I believe, is designed for a very specific purpose. We'll get to that later. Now, before I talk about the knife, I want to talk about the sheath. Now, this sheath is leather, and holy crap, is this one of the best made sheaths I've personally ever seen. Now, because I've got quite a lot of knives and multi-tools now, it means I've also got an okay amount of sheaths. Some leather, some nylon. I personally gravitate towards leather. And I thought some of the ones by Victorinox are pretty nice. In fact, I quite like the sheath, that the leather sheath that the Victorinox Swiss Steel Spirit comes in. Now my only issue with that sheath is that it has the Velcro opening. Not a fan of that at all. That's a very nice, well made sheath. This one here blows it out of the water. Now I'm sure a lot of people will not like this sheath as much as I do. That's fine. To me this is an excellent product. That to me, I think this will last a lifetime. Speaking of that open and close, we do have a button snap which is absolutely excellent. In fact, that itself is pretty satisfying, which is definitely a big thumbs up. The colour of the sheath is quite attractive and it's very consistent all over it. And I think this is actually handmade. Now, one thing I'm going to say, I don't have a clue where they make this knife and this sheath. I want to say it's English made, but I think there's a strong possibility that it's made in China. Nowhere on this knife does it tell you where it's made, nor does it tell you on the Bushcraft store. Now, I forgot to mention, this knife is only available through the Bushcraft store, unless of course you buy it second hand, because this design is actually designed by the Bushcraft store themselves. And there's also a few variants of this knife. You can also get this knife in Stag, Orange G, I think you can get an Orange G10, and you can also get it in Turkish Walnut. Now I went with a Curly Birch. We'll get back to that later on though. The sheath, extremely well made, should last a lifetime. That stitching to me looks absolutely excellent. Love the button snap. We've got a single rivet here holding the whole thing together. Now you notice here they've sort of doubled up the stitching. Excellent attention to detail, and I think this is what you would call full grain leather. Leather workers, if there's any out there, let me know. I don't really know much about leather myself. Now, we've got the Bushcraft store, the Boar logo stamped into the back of the sheath on the belt loop, which that belt loop is also really well made. Now, this sheath is a bit bulky on the belt, so I've not really been wearing it. I've not really carried this knife much, and I will get onto that later on. Now, a big thumbs up for stamping their logo on the back. Now, it's not that I don't want to see it, it's that I might want to use this knife for other things. So if I have the sheath for other things, so say I want to put my Manly Wasp or whatever knife in here, or my Leatherman, it's just one of those things that bugs me if it's got someone else's logo on it. I mean, if I'm carrying a Leatherman sheath, I want it to have a Leatherman in it. You know what I mean? It just bugs me. So the fact that it's not on the front, great, I don't mind putting anything else in there so much. Anyway, enough about the sheath. Let's look at the knife. That's what you came for, right? This lanyard, by the way, is one I put on myself, just a piece of leather. Now, this is a great looking knife. This is very attractive. Now, to me, with this knife, I think I said this on my Enzo PK70 video. We've got two sides to this knife. Now, this one is what I would consider the show side. And, well, on most other knives, this would be the pocket clip side, but there's no pocket clip on this. So, side 1 and side 2, basically. That's your show side, that one not so pretty. Although this is reasonably attractive as well. Like I said, this is Curly Birch. Now, it's just, Curly Birch is basically just birchwood with, I think it's just some sort of disease, or it's possibly the burr of the wood. Not too sure about that. Just noticed something. Is that a crack? Hope that's not a crack. I'm not going to be impressed if that's a crack. Right there. No, it's fine. Just part of the grain of the wood. Okay, so the wood, absolutely gorgeous. I think it's finished with, I've got a feeling it's boiled linseed oil or something like that, or olive oil. Now, when you take the knife out, you can actually smell it, and it smells very nice. Same with the sheath, actually. In fact, the sheath is probably vegetable tanned. So we're going to have a look at the construction of the knife. Now, you notice here, this is one thing that really draws me to this knife, is it's actually shaped. We've actually got a bit of a palm swell here in the middle, and it gets thinner towards the tip and towards the back. Great, that's to make it feel more comfortable in your hand, and absolutely that is satisfying to hold. Now, speaking of gripping the knife, this is the only thing that I really don't like about this knife, and it's almost a deal breaker, is you can see here between the wooden handle scales we've got steel liners, which, by the way, to me I think those are full steel liners. I don't think there's any cutouts on them at all. That's basically like 90 degrees. It's almost sharp, so if you want to hold the knife, it's kind of uncomfortable. You could feel the liners scraping into your hands. How long would it have taken them to chamfer that, to put a curve on it or something, just to make it a bit less aggressive? Because that is a really big off-putting thing. Now, this knife costs 60 quid by itself. Now, if you want the knife plus the sheath, it's 70. You can also get another package with this knife. You can get the knife, the sheath. There's also the option of having a fire steel loop on the sheath or not. You can get a matching fire steel, so one that the fire steel matches the wood or the stag or whatever it is you want to get, and just a plain fire steel. So excellent value for money. If you get the full package of this particular knife, it's about £100. So I think it'll be about 130 or something for the full package for the stag one. The stag version is the most expensive, about £80, but it's a pretty attractive looking knife also. Now, the blade on this knife is about 2.5 inches cutting edge. Excellent. This is legal pretty much everywhere. I can't really think of anywhere that this would be illegal to carry. So here in Britain, very UK friendly. Now, if you're using this out in the streets, or the police takes note of you, I'm not so sure they would call it friendly, but it certainly is legal. Now, since we've got it out, let's do some comparisons. The Manly Wasp, which is at this point my favourite EDC probably ever, absolutely loving this knife. And let's also get out the Victorinox Ranger, as always. Not a bad sized little pocket knife we've got here. Now, if you notice here as well, TBS, the Bushcraft store, N695 steel. And we've also got the Boar, their logo for this line of knife on the blade. Now, you'll notice the grind on this knife, well and truly a Scandinavian ground knife. We've got a Scandi ground knife. Now, to me, that's one of those things that makes this knife so special. It's a UK, god damn it, it's a UK legal Scandi ground knife. Most pocket knives do not have a Scandinavian grind. You usually see that on fixed blades, sometimes lock knives, but this is one of only 3 Scandinavian UK legals I've ever seen. Now, the only other 2 I've seen is the Enzo PK70, which I've got, but I think that's a bit expensive for EDC and Bushcraft for what it is, and the Spyderco UK PK, which unfortunately I think they've discontinued the Scandi ground version. So this is a good option and an affordable one at that. So that's basically a drop point blade on that as well, Scandinavian drop point. So this knife is a bushcraft knife. This knife is designed for bushcraft. Now, the obvious thing that gives that away is the fact that it's called the Bushcraft Store, The Boar. So there's that, and also Scandinavian ground knives are very commonly used in bushcraft. So why would you pick this over a full-sized fixed blade or a lock knife? You can carry it anywhere, anytime. Simple as that. Now, sometimes I want to go to the woods and do a bit of whittling as well. Not that I really do that, but sometimes I feel like I want to, and I like the ability to do that without fear of repercussion. So I could possibly legally go down to the woods with a fixed blade, but there is that chance that I can get in trouble. With this, that chance is pretty much eliminated. Although I believe bushcraft would be a legal reason to carry a fixed blade or camping or whatever, no worries with this thing. And I would suggest that it is a reasonably safe knife. I mean, that back spring of this slip joint knife is tight enough where I don't think it would fold on me. Now, I wouldn't go battening on this thing. I wouldn't hit it with a log or anything or throw it. It's definitely not a heavy duty knife, but for it being a UK legal, it's fairly heavy duty. Not a bad snap on that. Now, this thing is, you know, the snap at the pull on this is definitely more than a Swiss Army knife, so it's definitely considerably stronger. We can see here the construction. We've got a steel tube going through the back holding it together. At least I think it's holding it together. I've never actually taken it apart. But here we've got two Allen screws. So I would like to think that that means you could take it apart. But if you're buying this knife and you're considering taking it apart for whatever reason, maybe you want to swap out the scales or to clean it, one thing I want you to consider. Remember earlier on how we talked about that shape? Well, these, if I can get the thing to focus. Okay, this knife has been shaped and ground after the screws have been installed. So if you decide to try and put those screws back in, you might have a bit of a problem getting the screws in the exact same position, because I think there's a slight curvature in certain places to these screws. Now you can see here that it's not seamless. You can't really, I mean you can a bit, you can kind of feel it where the materials change. Not too much of an issue. Definitely not uncomfortable other than the previously mentioned liners. Blade centering is at first glance pretty good, but I was leaning a bit over to this side a bit. It is rubbing a little bit. No scratches there though, so that's not too much of an issue. I would like to know where they make these though. Like I said, I'm hoping it's made in England. Bonus points if it's made in Sheffield, but I've got a feeling they've made it in China. If anyone knows, let me know. That pretty much concludes this video. It's a great little UK EDC, as I said. Not one that I've personally used yet. The thing comes really sharp out of the box. Great for woodworking, camping, all that fun stuff. Now I'm actually curious about getting a couple more of these. I quite fancy to also get the stag version, and they've also came out with a new version called the Wildcat, which is basically the exact same, well, a very similar knife. Slight differences to the handle, and it's also got a flat ground secondary blade. Standard price on that thing is 85 quid without a sheath. We'll have to see on that. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on the comment. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Let me know, do you have one of these things? What do you think of it? What do you do with it? Anyway, leave it at that. See you later.